Hey everybody, welcome to Two Rivers Tuesday. Thanks for listening. This is our podcast where we continue the conversation from Sunday's sermon and highlight fun things in our church family. Here with John Teague and his wounded finger.
My finger has a heartbeat.
Yeah. Do you feel it all the time?
Only when I touch things.
Okay.
Yes.
Which would be often.
Yes. Yeah. It's hurting right now.
I'm so sorry.
It's amazing, like when you have to log into your laptop with this, and I was trying to type with a Band-Aid on my finger. It was just really hard, like, to not have that feeling. It's amazing, like, and I guess my fingerprint will grow back as it heals.
Oh, that's interesting. Like, do those same ripples
go
back again?
I don't know.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Why do we talk about that? For no reason whatsoever.
No.
Hey, I have some questions about that LSU game.
Oh, boy.
That story was so funny. And just for those of you who missed it, John showed a picture of him on Colby's shoulders at an LSU game. They're decked out in LSU gear. I want to know how you got up there. Did you just climb Colby like a tree?
I did. I totally climbed him like a tree. I don't even know that he bent down. I just climbed up him because he's got a very sturdy base.
Yes. Sturdy base.
Yeah, but it did not stay sturdy for long. Yes.
Okay, Jesse has it pulled up for us. My favorite part is your arms, the cheerleader arms.
Yes,
they're just out and up and so happy.
Yeah, I think that picture was actually a screenshot of a video.
Oh, I'd love to watch that.
Of me yelling, but we did not capture. No one got the fall after that.
That is very unfortunate. Okay,
yeah.
Were you hurt in the fall? That's my other question.
No, not at all.
Was Colby hurt in the fall?
That's debatable, and I think his back was seizing up on him, and he was not happy about me wrapping my arms around his throat. I don't think. And I wouldn't have been happy about it either. You know, it's like a panic moment,
yes.
Right? And you're like, not only am I falling down and I don't know how I'm going to like recover, but now I can't breathe. I'm suffocating and you're crushing my windpipe.
That's so great. Were you like embarrassed at all after everyone was watching this whole thing go down?
Like maybe for a moment, but you know, like we're so far away from
anyone that knows you.
Anyone that knows me, it doesn't really matter. No, so I think I was more kind of like embarrassed, like that people might think we had been drinking, and you know, we had not. So
that's so great. That's so funny. All right, before we transition to the sermon, is there anything in our church family you want to celebrate or highlight?
Gosh, you caught me off guard with that question.
I'll buy you some time. Just Easter. Like it's April. Easter's coming. We want to continually put that on people's minds, and especially for you to be thinking of who you can invite. Last night was prayer night for us, and so one of the things that we were praying into is just like the reality that in this season of the year, there really are people who are like becoming interested in coming to church on Easter. And so that is just like ripe for us to be inviting them and pursuing them and making sure they know, hey, our church is one of those places. We'd love to have you on Easter. So yeah, just thinking of who you can invite, who you can be pursuing. We'd love to have them any Sunday, and especially on Easter Sunday, because that gives them a really clear, beautiful picture of who we are and what we're all about.
Yeah, I love that. Here's mine. Last night was prayer night, and Glenn, one of our elders, said something that I loved. It was just so like genuine and out of an overflow of his heart. At the end of prayer night, he was just like, "Gosh, I just wish everyone knew. Like, if you love Sunday, you ought to come to Monday," or something like that. You know, he wasn't trying to give a pitch, you know, like a commercial, but it was like, I was like, oh my gosh, that's such a great phrase. And we had an awesome time of just like, there were several moments during our prayer time that we were just laying hands on folks and praying over them. And we were praying for things that we know about in the life of our church family. And we did pray about Easter in our community. And so I just want to continue to put that on your radar. And I just want to say that I could probably say every week, every time we do this, so every month, on the way there, I'm like, I wish I was not going to this.
Yes.
On the way home, I'm like, I am so glad I went to that.
Yes. Yeah. That is my exact same experience every time. But like having made the commitment to just like show up, the like begrudging's not the right word, but like any like pushback I feel internally to going
Yes.
is starting to like taper off a little bit, because I've trained myself to know, like, I know I'll be glad that I went.
Yeah.
And so that is like helping with that. And something else that just came to mind as you were talking about that, we'll kind of get to this later as we talk about the sermon, but based on what we talked about on Sunday, for anyone who is like feeling that desire to know Jesus more and like know him experientially, prayer gatherings I think are one of the like sweetest places to like taste that and experience it.
Yeah.
So those are an environment you can get in and like very practically practice experiencing Jesus and knowing him in the way we want to know him more and more. All right, so let's get into the sermon. You ready?
Let's get into it.
All right, so you talked about being in those LSU clothes because you talked about how you were just playing along. Like you're not truly an LSU fan, but you're just going along with it. And that's kind of the warning that Jesus is giving here, is this like, hey, at the end of all things, some people will come to me and I'll just be like, no, you were just playing along the whole time. Like, depart from me, I never knew you.
Yes.
And so you had these 3 observations. The first one is not all who call themselves followers are really following. And so I think this is something we know to be true. We've seen that. We've been that person maybe, or we can just look at the numbers of like how many people claim Christianity versus how many people like really live it out. We know this is true. But what are some of the reasons for why people might be doing this?
Why people might be claiming to be followers but not be following?
Yes, yeah.
Well, one of the things that I'm concerned about is just how we have made following Jesus more of a transaction that happens at one time. And I don't want to discount those moments where we feel the Spirit of God is stirring in our hearts and we need to respond to him. And we need to pray, perhaps for the first time, and we need to ask him to save us. We need that moment, right? We need to confess with our mouths that Jesus is Lord. We need to believe in our hearts that he's come to rescue us from our sin. You know, we need that. But there's been a lot of, how do I say it? I'm trying to say this succinctly and I'm not doing a good job.
You're doing great.
Basically, lots of raise your hand moments. And that's all that's all I had to do. And then I don't really know how I'm to follow him after that.
Yes.
And so I don't, and I might actually think I'm a Christian and I may not be known by him, because following Jesus is a long obedience in the same direction. Eugene Peterson once said, and wrote a whole book about it. It's choosing, I said, over and over and over again, yes to Jesus, and not just like praying for your salvation over and over and over again, worried and wondering if it took, like it's there is assurance of salvation all throughout the scriptures. But I think sometimes we've so oversold that piece of it that we perhaps have misled people to think that I can claim Jesus like I'm claiming him on my taxes, or I'm like I can wear the colors and I can call myself a Christian even though my life doesn't look anything like it, and I that worries me.
Yeah, that is something that should like break our hearts and concern us.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a great example of like how that often happens, and I think people may continue in that level of like bare minimum at least, or even like false Christianity of just claiming it, but it's not like genuine, because it's what they've always done at this point. Now it's just like, I've always claimed Jesus on my taxes, so that's just what I'll keep doing, even though there hasn't been any transformation. And you also talked about like sometimes we do this because it just like keeps the peace with our spouse. Like it's what my spouse wants me to do, so I'll keep going through those motions. I'll go to church with them. We'll raise our kids this way because we want them to be good kids. And I think that's especially true, and maybe becoming less so, but like in the South, like, right, like that's like the hub of cultural Christianity, where it's just like, this is what we do. This is kind of the tide of culture.
Yeah.
Maybe it makes you like a good businessman, and like it's good for business. You get to network, make connections.
Friendship. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Friendship. Yeah. And I think that that's the other kind of side of it, is like people may be tipping their hat to Jesus because it gets them good friends, or it gets them like maybe even like healthy habits in their life, or like something to do, a way to make connections, and makes them feel like they have a purpose. And like all of those things are good and beautiful fruit that does come in knowing Jesus, but it's not like all there is to it.
Yeah. There was a note in our teaching team discussion about all of this whenever we had that a week or so ago, it's like, I feel like it's just really captures this, and it's, it's not polished. It's just, there's a level of Jesusness in our culture right now, but tipping your hat to God isn't proof that you treasure him. At best, your soul is withering. At worst, you're destined for destruction.
Yeah.
That's it. And I just want to say that, like, if it's you, or it's someone that has just sort of been using Jesus as a way to gain certain things, peace with your spouse, a good place for your kids to learn, how to make good choices and those kinds of things. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if you were kind of like, I don't see the draw.
Yes.
Because like, just doing a bunch of church stuff is not the draw.
Yes.
It's the transformative relationship with Jesus that is where it's at. And that requires surrender. That requires submission. That requires relationship. And so I think often about people who are just kind of like, I tried Jesus and it didn't work for me. And I would be like, I don't know if you really tried Jesus, like there's way more than this cultural veneer that's out there.
Yeah. People try like the extracurriculars of Jesus and think they're trying Jesus, but they totally miss the point. Like all of those things, the community, the friendship, the practices, the coming to church, like all of those things serve as means to one end, and that's Jesus, like knowing him more. But if like you're not allowing all of those extracurriculars, for lack of a better word, to like spur you to him and point you to him, then like all of those things are going to be missing the point, and they're going to fall short, and you're going to be like, is this it? Is this what Christianity is? I think another reason is like, I think some people don't realize they're doing this, and that's why like it's important that we teach through passages like this. And this is why I think it's important that we recognize and like call to attention Jesus's kindness in saying these hard words, because these words are intense, and they can, even as we read it, be like, geez, like that's a little harsh, right? But like, actually, no, like it's so kind that he gives this warning, because this warning is also an invitation.
Yes. I think this, I never knew you, depart from me, is I think the other side of this. And I think we could point to so many other times that Jesus was teaching and speaking to people to prove this. I think it's accurate to say that on the other side of this is, I'd like to know you.
Yes.
I came to know you. I came so you could know me, and you could be known by me.
Yes.
That's the invitation. This is not a cold-hearted, we shouldn't read, I never knew you, depart from me, you workers of lawlessness, and be like, whoa, Jesus, like how cold-hearted of you. Like, no. It's not that. But at this point, when you get to this point, he's just declaring the reality of the choice that we've already made.
Yeah.
So, yes, you're right to point out the invitation.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm just thinking of like his character as a king. Like so many other kings that you think of like are content with just like verbal allegiance. Like they don't care to have your heart. They don't care to apprehend you fully and to like know you fully. They just are content with you just like tipping your hat to them, putting you on their taxes, and that being it. But like Jesus is a king who wants so much more, like wants relationship with us, wants like our whole hearts, wants to know us. And that is like what makes him such a good king and so
Yeah.
different than like most other like rulers or king like figures that we like have in our mind. Like this king is not content with just you saying, yeah, I know him, or putting him on your taxes. Like he knows there's so much more, and he's seeking that with you.
Yeah. Have you ever had someone like claim a relationship with you or a friendship with you, but they don't really know you?
Yes.
Like you don't know them. Like really? Like how does that feel? It feels weird.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. And I think that's kind of what you were saying on Sunday. It's like, nobody knows Katie like I know Katie. And like, for me, like nobody knows Jake like I know Jake. And like, if somebody claims that, but like doesn't know him, it's like, that's ridiculous. And,
Yes.
and there's also this feeling of like, oh no, you're missing out
Uh-huh.
like on really knowing Jake.
Yeah.
And so that's how it is with Jesus. Like, and that's probably our heart too, for people who are claiming him but don't really know him. We're like, oh, you're missing out.
Yes.
Like really knowing him is so
Yes.
much better.
Yes. And I just want to say too, I keep derailing you as you go back to your computer to like, let's see, what do I want to talk about next? And then John grabs the wheel.
It's great.
Now I've totally forgotten what I was going to say by joking around about that. Shoot, what were we just talking about? Like missing out?
Yes.
I don't know.
All right. Well,
What a
I'll
buildup.
help you. The passage right before this is about false prophets.
Okay.
How does that connect to what Jesus is saying, or does it connect? Why was he setting it up that way?
Yeah, so I read this on Sunday because I wanted us to all to get it as a whole, as a little unit here. Matthew 7 verses 15 through 23. We only really nailed down 21 through 23. The other part is about false prophets and about a tree and bearing fruit, and it's all connected. You know, he's saying, beware, watch out for false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they're ravenous wolves. But then he teaches us how we'll be able to recognize them by the fruit in their lives. And the reason I didn't want to go hard into that is that I wanted us to feel the weight of verses 21 through 23, and Jesus saying, I never knew you, you people who call me Lord, and you do things in my name. I didn't want us to dismiss what Jesus was saying as like, oh, he's talking about false prophets, like those people I see on TV, those people who are teaching false things. And I didn't want us to just all of a sudden not feel the weight of Jesus' words, because I think the reality is, I think what he's talking about is like, we could be those false prophets and not know it. And it's all the false things that our lives are saying, you know, even while our lips say something else.
Yeah.
So like, I think they're very connected. I just didn't want us to just think, oh, he's talking about somebody else.
Yes.
No, I was talking about us.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about me. This is where I was going. So I think it's real easy, perhaps, for pastors. I don't know what it's like to, you know, like sit in the congregation and hear this. But I'm preaching this, but I'm not Jesus, and you're the people that he's saying like something to, right? Like we sometimes read characters into the story, right? So like, we're never the Pharisees, you know, we're always the other people as we listen, you know, and those Pharisees are somebody else, you know what I mean? Like, and I just want to say, like, I'm sitting with us in the congregation and having to have this text ask me the question, how well does Jesus know me? How deeply do I treasure him and my relationship with him? And is there ground that needs to be given up to him in my life so that he can know that and then transform me? I am very much needing to hear this text, not just preach it to everybody else.
Yes, yeah. And that's what makes Jesus such a good teacher, is like these words hit the person who isn't a follower, and they hit the person who has been following him truly for 20 years.
Yeah.
And it's like everyone has something we can take from this. And so maybe it's for those of you out there who maybe these words helped you realize like, oh, I have never truly known Jesus. I have never truly let him know me. Then there's something for you here. And for those of us who are like, oh, this makes me realize Jesus is still inviting me into so much more knowing of him, then that's the invitation to you too. So in your life, John, how do you practice knowing Jesus and being known by him? Like, what does it look like for you to lean into that?
Well, I think it is consistently spending time with him and going to his word, asking him to teach me, asking him to search my heart, reveal to me what's going on in my heart, what's there, talking to him about that, asking him for help in following him. So it's spending time with him. That's how you build a relationship with anyone. I think it's also when I'm confronted with my sin, it's how I respond to my sin and how I come and I turn my thinking around. I repent and I confess my sin and I ask for forgiveness and I ask for like a restoration of that relationship that he died to give me. So those are a couple of ways.
Yeah. Something that came to mind for me is like every now and then I just have to like zoom out and make sure, are all these things that I'm doing leading me to more of Jesus? Because sometimes I just start going through the motions in my like religious activity, and a lot of times I just miss where those things are supposed to be like sending me, and that's to Jesus. And so on Sunday we were even talking about that in the Engage the Heart workshop that we did. It was just kind of like, hey, let's like remember why we do Engage the Heart, and let's make sure we're like on the right track, because even in Engage the Heart, like that time is to be confessing sin and reminding one another of the gospel and truth and asking one another questions and like knowing one another and being known by Jesus. But even in that, we can get off track and like start, that vehicle kind of starts like heading in the wrong direction, where we're maybe too focused on sin and not allowing that time to like go through sin to Jesus, right? And so, and same with like any religious activity. Like think about like coming to church on a Sunday morning, reading your Bible, gathering in fellowship with people, life group, Engage the Heart, like any of these things that we do. Sometimes if we're not careful, we can just drift into just doing them and just going through the motions, because we've always done that and we're good at it at this point. We know the lingo, we know what to do, but it's good to just zoom out and be like, is Jesus the point? And am I like posturing my heart in all of those things to seek him and for him to be the goal of all of that? Because that's what, like, when we as like church leaders and church staff like do anything at church, we always have like Jesus as the goal in mind for why we would even be doing that to begin with. And so we just have to remember to like zoom out and make sure our eyes are on him in all of our activity. And I say all that to say like doing that, making sure my eyes are on Jesus and like he is the end from all these means, helps me to really know him and to practice that and make sure I'm not like accidentally drifting and missing the point of all of it.
I think that's really well said. I might add to this conversation that choosing Jesus over something else is another way to like grow in your relationship with him, and growing in seeing that he's better, or he can take care of you when you put down the thing that you have wanted to take care of you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so I think making those choices daily that's another way to grow.
Yeah, that reminds me of that song, like, Jesus, Jesus, how I trust you, how I've proved you over and over. And it's just like every time we choose Jesus over something else, we're like proving to ourselves over and over that he is better, that he's worth treasuring. And every time he is faithful to like be enough and be better, that just like confirms with our whole being, like, oh yeah, he is better. Oh yeah, I do treasure him. He is worth following. But if we just like continually choose the easy, wide thing, then we never get a chance to like prove and taste and see how much better Jesus is. That I was thinking about the analogy that you gave of being in that lecture hall, and like how some students like come to class, but they sit on the back row and the professor like really never knows them, and how some people follow Jesus, but like from the way back of the crowd, and they're not following closely. So they're not like seeing firsthand who Jesus is and why he does what he does. And I was just thinking about how one of the kind of like assurances that we can feel that we really do know Jesus and we really are following him is there will be in us a willingness to obey and like a desire to obey his commands. But if we're following from the back, his commands probably don't make any sense to us. Kind of like that telephone analogy. Like his commands are getting like filtered down through so many other people's experiences and so many other people's even words. And so by the time it gets to us, we're like, why would Jesus ask me to do that? That makes no sense. Like that seems unreasonable. I'm not going to obey this command. I'm going to do my own thing. And nobody will notice because I'm way back here following in the back. I can get away with it.
Yeah.
And just like realizing like when you follow from the back, following him is just not fun because you don't get the like character and the heart and the relationship of the one that you're following. So everything is just like so removed from who he is that it's not, you don't get any of the joy and peace from obeying.
Yes. And so like you didn't, and I use these couple examples. Also, don't let me forget D's and dishes. Don't let me forget. So like I use this example, like you don't get to see the tears on the cheeks of the woman who had been suffering with a bleeding issue for years and no one could help. And then she touches Jesus's garment and she's healed and everything stops in that moment. And when you're following Jesus that closely, you're right there. You're a part, you are a part of it. Last night, when we were praying over someone and the tears were falling, I could tell you about that and how neat that was. But I was in the room with my hands on the person and we sensed the Spirit of God speaking. You push in. That's just what I want to say. Push in. Yes. Okay. So D's and dishes. So I was in college, and it was my freshman year, and I was kind of like not walking with, there was no kind of like, I was not walking with Jesus. I was doing a lot of other things that college kids sometimes do their freshman year. And I had this 4-hour lab class. Okay. It was, like, I think it was called physical geography. And I was like, geography, this will be great. You know, I know the capital of France. You know, I was thinking like, I don't know, social studies or something. No, it was awful. It was like water tables and weather, which some people would totally nerd out on. I think, but not a freshman, not 18-year-old John. So anyway, the teacher did not take attendance. It was in a huge auditorium. I remember exactly where it was, on the hill at the University of Tennessee. And I could go and I would sit in the back and I would go through these boring lectures. And then I started realizing like I don't have to go every week. And so I didn't go every week. And then it got longer and longer and longer in between times when I would go. And then finally one time, it had been a while, and my roommate was like, don't you have a 10 o'clock class? Don't you think you ought to go to that? And so I went, and we were taking a test. Oh, gosh. So do you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
Like just over and over again, we just put it off. We're in the back. We're not experiencing it. It's not interesting. It's not fun. It's whatever. So not what we want to be a part of. And then one day, we're not ready, and there's a test. And then one day, the teacher says, sorry, you know, like you missed all that content that we just covered. You don't know. And then Jesus says, I never knew you. Like that's the heartbreaking thing about this, right? And so then, no, let me talk about dishes. Okay. This may have no relevance at all, but I'm on a thing now. Sometimes people talk about like the distance between your head and your heart. And have you ever had people talk about that? Like, you know, something in your head, but it's got to get down in your heart and it's 18 inches or whatever it is. I was just thinking this morning about how I think you could also say like that distance between knowing something and then knowing about someone and then knowing someone is like the same distance between the sink and the dishwasher. And so what I mean by that is you might have people in your home, perhaps in the office where you work, that will just set a dirty dish in the sink. And I don't know, I guess they think then like a fairy comes in at night and like flies down and picks it up like while their wings are flapping and like opens the dishwasher magically, and then it goes in there and then it gets washed
and put away magically.
And then put away, right? So they just set it in the sink, right? Like we do this, okay? Like with Jesus, like I'm just going to set you in the sink and not like really like press in and follow up and be all in and put the thing in the dishwasher. It's right there, you know, like if you're hearing this, like you're hearing this, you know, it's like I'm preaching this on Sunday. And if you're here, like you're here. Well, now let's like move into our hearts, right? And like, let's put the dish in the dishwasher and let him like transform your life.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I think that that's powerful, because I feel like the distance between like what you're saying, like knowing Jesus in our mind, knowing him in our heart, I think we know what we need to do to like mind that gap. Like we know what those steps are that he's like inviting us into. And it's just a matter of like, just do it. Just like be his friend, just know him, just seek him, just like take that extra step, put it in the dishwasher, go all in. Like everyone like probably like feels him inviting you into more, and you know there is more. So just go with him there and like test him. Like, you know, he will prove faithful, and he'll be so worth whatever sacrifice that may take to like go all in. It's so worth it. It's so fun. It's so thrilling. There's so much joy and peace and fruit in knowing him more fully and in experiencing it in its fullness.
Yes, absolutely. I got a D in that class, by the way.
That's why D's
that
and
was
dishes.
why I was thinking D's and dishes.
That's
Yeah,
hilarious.
it put me
That's
on
great.
academic probation. When you get a D in a 4-hour class, that's
not good.
That's a GPA destroyer.
Yeah, yeah. And one last point on that, like how confident did you feel to approach that professor when you needed something?
Zero confidence.
Zero confidence. Yeah. But when we go all in, we really know him as a friend, like we can experience the confidence to approach him about anything and everything. But when we're just like doing the bare minimum, then we have to kind of feel that like guilt and like, ooh, I need to come to you, but I know, you know, all of that, which like is a lot of our brokenness and not really his character. But when you are just his friend, you're walking with him, you're knowing him, you're seeking him, there's so much confidence in approaching him because your life is lived in his presence in a sense.
Yeah.
All right. That's all I had.
That's it?
Yes. Jesse's given us the mark.
Yes. Yes. That was a good conversation.
Yes.
I just want to end with the reminder that Jesus is inviting us. He's inviting us to come and be known.
Yes.
And he will take good care of us.
Yeah, that's a great reminder. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll be back next week.